love to maybe have a small introduction, set some context for the folks, in terms of who you are, what your journey has been, and then maybe dive right into the session, on strategy and finance in ops.
Yeah, absolutely. The thanks, Sugato and Rohit. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job in terms of having a very different curated forum, which is centered towards, I guess, things we don't talk about that often. And I think operations and supply chain is, as you rightly know, is the backbone of the creation of any company per se, except unless it's a complete deep tech company. Otherwise, it's pretty much the backbone of everything that we build. So naturally, very important for us to talk and share anecdotes, experiences with each other. So I would love this conversation, first of all, to be very interactive in nature and doesn't have to be a prescriptive conversation from my end. That's not at all the intent. Coming back to Rohit's question, from an introduction perspective, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a B2B commerce company called Bizongo. I myself am a person from a Bengali from Calcutta. Then in 2013, actually, 2008 is when I stepped into IIT Bombay. Did my chemical engineering for 5 years there, and it's a dual degree chemical engineering. Graduated in 2013. Post that, the aspiration always was to, no matter what, get a very good MBA degree out of maybe GSB, Stanford, or HBS, Harvard, and somewhat, make a name for myself in that part of the world. And maybe who knows, something interesting might happen through that. But the plans completely changed. I think in 2014, when I realized that the Make in India movement was very, very, people seemed serious about it. And I think one thing that I realized was that if you go to a place where there's opportunity, but there's always things have been solved to a large extent, then you can't really, it's going to be very difficult for you to make your mark at the beginning. So the concept really that I played with was that there are so many opportunities in India right now because a lot hasn't happened in the last 6-7 decades since our independence. But if, it probably is the right time, and this is the right time that things will start improving. And that's when I think got into the B2B e-commerce domain, because everyone was working on the e-commerce side of the consumer side, rather. Flipkart, Amazon are taken off. So that's when I think, we were very, very, very new to the game, essentially. I barely had any substantial experience. But I think because we started to focus on the fundamental building blocks since the start itself, and we knew that, okay, there's no one right answer to get to the destination because no one really has done it in India till now. So the pressure was really, it really was essentially our ability to paint the way we wanted the canvas to be painted. And I think that's what we did. And thankfully, touchwood, we scaled well. And as of now, 2024, we raised our last Series E round at a unicorn valuation in October 2023. That's always a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, in terms of B2B e-commerce per se, today, Bizongo is a supply chain software. What we do is essentially we ask our customers to place their PO, and the PO to invoice the entire tracking of the supply chain from the vendor side as well as the customer side. Receipt of goods, EW bill, everything is completely you're integrated on the platform, and through the proprietary data that we generated at transaction level, we are able to essentially provide working capital financing to the vendors. And these are very, very small vendors, and SME financing in India is a big problem. The reason we have an innate advantage over other banks and NBFCs is the availability of transaction level data, which typically people find very, very difficult in terms of gathering. And that's a major deterrent to solving working capital gaps in India. So that's really what I think a sweet spot that we hit, and that allowed us to scale pretty effectively. And yeah, and here we are. I think I interacted with Rohit and Sogato some time back, very, very enthusiastic, bright minds, and they were with a very noble mission. They wanted to build a community. And Rohit Eme, by the way, the person who was in the first session, the remarkable entrepreneur in his own right. And the fact that Rohit and Sogato are being able to get good people in front of the community, and they keep keeping it very, very curated with one core mission at the heart of it, speaks a lot about their intent as well. So yeah, I'll stop rambling now and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Aniket. You've been very kind. It was lovely to hear, about how you guys thought of Bizongo, why you sort of set it up, and the core problems that you're trying to solve. For this session, as we discussed, there are two main things that people are very keen to understand, right? One is, given your experience, having been a founder, having led operations at a company which, as you said now, is quite huge, employs hundreds of people, works with like thousands of customers, across the country. How do you think about strategic thinking, right? What is the COO mindset, right? Like, how do we go from being ops managers to being ops leaders, over our careers? Is one thing definitely that is super interesting. And the second, as you mentioned, the kind of business that you run, the finance aspect of operations cannot be understated. And you like saying that an ops manager who owns his budget or her budget basically owns their career, right? And it's not just the finance department's job to look at these things. So it'd be great to sort of take some time, go through both of these.
Very rightly pointed out about the strategic thinking in operations per se. I think one thing we ought to understand is that you have to always, when you try going into one field, right, there must be a reason why the individuals on the other side of the call, you have selected core operations to be an interest area for you. There has to be a reason. There can't be, it didn't happen just like that out of the blue. So for example, I'll give you one reason what I felt very strongly about. I think 2015 was when was the time when I heard that, okay, Flipkart is doing something around $5 billion of annualized GMV per year. And then I heard, okay, Alibaba is doing 10 billion worth of GMV in 3 minutes on single stick. So I think that was a mover and shaker for me, because I realized that, okay, there is something here which my mind can't even comprehend. It is that big, and it is that, that much of a scale that seems lucrative. So you have to realize that how you do it through by opting for going to Amazon and solving it, or building your own firm, is secondary. But the very fact that this problem interests you, the very fact that this is exciting enough for you, and this is exciting enough for you to open your eyes at the start of the morning and say that, okay, today is the day when I'm going to scale my supply chain to a certain extent, and that excitement is should be very palpable. So I feel that today itself, or whenever you like to, I mean, this is a close community, we'll keep interacting with each other. Whenever you can, keep asking yourself this question, that does scale excite me? Does the because a lot of people, I myself belong to the category. A lot of people, I feel that whenever they see something very tangible in front of them, okay, I can see a shipment moving from a warehouse A to warehouse B. I can see it. It's literally happening in front of me. A truck is getting loaded, and whatnot, and that in itself is exciting. That truck getting loaded is providing employment to the guy who's loading it, unloading it, to the guy who's driving it, and the transporter, the warehouse manager, the everything. Like, it's a huge, it's like a entire village is working at one warehouse itself. So that always impacted me positively, and I feel that, please understand that the strategic mindset that you need to develop will never happen if these two boundary conditions are not. If you do not enjoy, no matter of IQ is not going to help you reach there. That is not talked about in the ecosystem enough, because people actually don't want you to know that, honestly. But that is the real core thing. If you enjoy scale, if you believe that what you're doing, you're touching and feeling a consignment, a shipment, you can see it moving in front of you, and it's creating employment, it's creating value, and you're like, okay, hey, I mean, this is, I'm going to dedicate my life to this. So that's important. And I think you can go there someday. It doesn't have to be like from day one itself. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, strategic mindset, very importantly, is about going very deep into the reason of as to why a problem exists. So I'll probably say that. So in terms of, I think Rohit made a very good attempt by saying that, okay, let's kind of pose scenarios than actually trying to answer questions verbatim. I think that's a better approach. So let me put it this way, right? So there are a lot of e-commerce firms being run across the country, and there are different avenues, different models, and but what do you feel is the balance between, say, a seller-led supply chain, which is your vendor is up at the other side, and the vendor essentially packs the goods and provides it to some kind of a seller-owned logistics, or a logistics partner that you might have, and then gets it sent to the customer. The other is that you yourself make the logistics work through another third party, make it go to the seller, get it picked up, and then sent to the customer. And the third is obviously a hub and spoke sort of a warehouse model, right, where you get it actually picked up from a seller, or the seller sends it, but to a central warehouse, it gets gathered there, and from there, howsoever middle mile, last mile, logistics then happens. What according to you, would you opt for as a model of choice, and why?
So hi Aniket.
Hey, hi, Saurabh.
So, for me, I think it would depend on the volume that we would be processing. For example, if I'm picking up a lot of shipments from a marketplace supplier, so I would need to do it in the vehicles of smaller size. The frequency of picking up would be higher. So I think for that part, I would use a hub and spoke model. It would help me better. Also, for warehouse pickups, they have specific times, right? I mean, they mostly do it in the morning, like 4 a.m. or something. So for them, they have specific cutoffs that they need to deliver, since they need to show it on their app also, right? For example, Amazon shows you that a particular shipment would reach you at a particular time. So for them, also, I think hub and spoke model would be better. But yeah, depending on the scale, if your shipments don't have a specific time facility, then I think that model would not work.
Got it. Got it. Anyone else wants to put their thoughts in? Please feel free to say whatever comes to your mind. There's a right and wrong answer in business. Just say what comes in your mind.
Hi, Aniket. So I
Hey,
believe
hi.
for consumer-oriented products, it's more of where you control. But for like B2B products, it's better like with supplier if the logistics with supplier, but with your control.
Got it. Got it. I think Himanshu has already raised his hand.
Yeah.
So Himanshu, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Aniket.
Hey, hi.
So from what I feel, maybe the differentiator that I would be able to create would be basically in aggregating the logistics part of the solution, and not really going to the shop and get picking it up. So if I can use the hub and spoke model where people are just transferring the goods to my center and I'm accumulating, that will define the accuracy of the packaging, and also what I'm packaging would be what I'm sending out would be established. And so maybe I'll be able to get a good differentiator there to hit the market. That's what I feel.
Got it.
Maybe
Got it.
folks,
Okay, so,
as you
yeah.
as
Yeah,
you
please
maybe
go.
think about answering this question, you might want to sort of dimensionalize it, right? Like if I do it, if my vendor does it, if we do it together, what does that mean for our relationship, right? If I have more control, I mean, it's not just good to have more control, right? What does more control lead to? Does it mean I can influence my margins better? Does it mean that I can push longer payment terms on my vendor? And the vendor is also going to be thinking of things from the same perspective, right? So, Aniket, you should definitely add more. But just as we think about these things, it's probably important to understand the why, right, behind taking some of these decisions as well.
With taking more margins on, I think it also adds the risk element of things, right? You then are responsible for ensuring the quality of the product delivered, that it doesn't get tampered with. Then you also have to handle the returns if there are any, and all. So that's also another cost element that is added as a risk. Yeah, but Aniket, please go ahead.
A lot of you, I think, alluded to the fact that the selection of the model is actually not dependent on any one factor. There are multiple factors in play here, and you will see that's why many different categories operate in very, very different ways. And we have actually seen that happen. I think perishability of the product is also very important. So if you actually store products which are perishable, you store them in a warehouse and they get spoiled, and your return rates and spoilage rates increase, then your profits are all gone.